Okay, cool. So we are rolling. So this is a brand new thing we are working on. We are going to do, it's our mic. We are going to do some mental health videos this month with fellow actress, producer, and writer, Deb. And Deb is going to open up the world to us about why she is so passionate about this, among other things. And Deb, I'm just going to give it to you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Deborah Smith, and as Sam said, I'm an actor, a writer, a producer, and a very strong mental health advocate. One of the ways that has come into my life is I created a mental health organization a little over a year ago called More Than You See, and the reason that I created that was because at that point in my life, I was going through a really dark depression, a really dark place, and for a lot of different reasons, some of them acting related and some of them personal and other things related. And I always say, and I find this very important to talk about suicide, because suicide is not something that we talk about, even more so than mental health. I think it has an even bigger stigma attached to it. And while I wasn't necessarily suicidal, I had no reason to get out of bed in the morning. I felt like I had lost my purpose in life, and I was able to see from a objective point of view that I was not in a good place. And I did what I could in order to get out of that myself. And that included going to therapy, really trying to do something every day that would bring me a little bit of happiness. And one thing that I really realized was that there was sort of a gap in the market when it came to non-traditional mental health resources, because the more that I talked to my friends, the more that I realized that, while we have ideas about where to go, if you're feeling suicidal, there's the, National Suicide Hotline, there's the Trevor Project, there's a lot of really incredible resources out there for people in states of crisis. But for all of the normal feelings of just feeling shitty and feeling anxious and feeling depressed, what the fuck do you do with that? How do you get through that? And so that's what I've really tried to focus my organization on, is tackling those things, tackling those intermediary feelings, and understanding that we all are going through periods of depression, and especially right now in the pandemic, this has heightened this even more. And so I find that it's really valuable to have those non-traditional resources as well.
I love that. I love that, because it's true. It's it's like how we treat cancer once you have it, but we don't do a lot of pre-work. It's we don't do the small stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of symptoms, just like any other, disease. Mental illness is a disease, and there's a lot of symptoms that have to do with that. And I think that we don't recognize the fact that that's the case, that, we think all the time about okay, you're feeling depressed, you have depression, whatever, what does that actually mean? What are the reasons behind that? And, all of the things, all the things with that.
How does this relate back to you as a creative? Because I feel like this is all connected.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I mean, I think, one thing that I'm going to highlight a lot with this is that my mental health journey, I think, has made me an even better actor than I was before. And I'm so excited to see how I'm going to use everything I've learned about myself and propel it into my career. And I think that's something that I think is so valuable for actors, is the fact that we, on a daily basis, we are recognizing our feelings and maybe putting on other feelings depending upon a character that we're playing. And one of the things that I think is the most valuable is the fact that we can recognize our feelings. There was a study done that basically was if someone has mental health symptoms, how long will it take them to actually seek help? If someone isn't sleeping, they're feeling sad every day, whatever. And I want to ask you, Sam, what do you think? How long do you think it would take someone to seek help on average?
I think that we live in a world where that stuff is so normalized that I think it would take a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hasten to say at least 6 months.
Mm-hmm. It's 11 years.
What?
on average. 11 years.
Oh God.
Yeah. And that's where I think that it's so valuable for us as actors to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to mark the fact that I'm feeling depressed for like these number of days. I'm not able to sleep for these number of days, and then be able to recognize that in yourself and be like, okay, I actually need help on a bigger level. It's not just that I'm not sleeping. It's not just that I'm feeling sad because my show got canceled. Like, there's other things going on there. And so I'm really excited about all that I'm learning about myself and the mental health community, because I think that it's going to, it's going to completely propel me to a new level in my career. And, I am also doing a lot of stuff with mental health. So I'm getting a lot of opportunities because of that, but I'm also creating a lot of content that has to do with mental health. I did a short film that was premiered in May on my mental health platform, called Imogen's Imaginary Friends. And it's a sort of like creepy thriller short film that's about like a woman going through her daily life, and a demon is following her and mimicking her. And that demon is the personification of her anxiety and depression. And we created that, my friend who's the writer director, she brought me this project and she's like, do you want to help produce this and star in this? And I was like, absolutely, 100%. And then to see how the demon manifested, and then to hear people contact us and be like, I have always thought that my inner demons looked like a Dementor from Harry Potter or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what, this creature looks like in the short film, so it's really, I think that, we're all craving connection, and we're all trying to like connect with each other and connect with the world and connect with art in general. I mean, especially right now, but in general. And I think that mental health just like adds a whole other layer to that. And I think it's so important.
This is so cool. I have one more question for our first video, and it's that for our actors who are thinking to themselves maybe right now, I sometimes am sad, or I sometimes am anxious, or I'm sometimes, struggling, but like not all the time. So I don't have any mental health issues to deal with. What would you say to someone like that?
So I would say, something that's really important to recognize is the fact that there's actually 3 separate things that comprise mental health, or that comprise your likelihood of having a mental illness. The first one is your psychological factors. So, how you were raised. It's basically all the things that are happening in your brain. You say, like, the way that you react to something, like if you see yourself on TV and you're like, oh God, I look terrible, I look whatever, like that is your psychological reaction to things. So that obviously affects your mental illness. Then there's your biological. So us as people are all different. Our brains are all different. Our brain chemicals are all different. Our brain waves are all different. All of that sort of stuff has to do with our biology. And some of that is genetic, and like because of our parents. That's why you see, like someone who's predisposed to alcoholism or something like that will then, it's higher, there's a high likelihood that the kid will be also predisposed to that. But it's also just your biology, like what the dice was rolled, and this is what, you came on. And then the third thing is your environmental factors. And that, of course, is who you surround yourself with, what your living experience is like, any of that sort of thing. And so I think that it's really important to number one, recognize that there's 3 things that are related to your mental health. But then the other thing that I would say is that there's 2 apps or 2 tests that you can take that are really important, that will basically say like whether or not you're actually just like feeling sad, or whether or not you're going through a period of depression. The first one is called PHQ-9, and it's on a scale of 1 to 3, and it'll just basically ask you questions, and depending upon your answers to those questions, it will tell you where on the spectrum you are of depression and some suggestions about what to do with it. And so that's specifically for depression. And then there's another one called GAD-7, which is for anxiety. And it's the same thing. It's on a scale of 1 to 3. You answer questions and you say like, you know, am I feeling anxious about this? How am I reacting to this on a scale of 1 to 3? And then it'll also give you an answer as far as where on the scale you are, and some suggestions about what to do with that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, guys, this is your intro, and we will be back with Deb next week.